Keegan-Michael Key. You write, produce, and star in Key and Peele on Comedy Central. And if I counted right, you're nominated for, I think, 5 Emmys this year, also including the Super Bowl special and Van and Mike, The Ascension. What was your reaction to all the support for you in the show this year?
Well, really, I gotta say, really honored, very honored. And in one particular case, I felt like I really appreciated the Academy recognizing our writers, because I just think that our writing staff is absolutely phenomenal. And so very often it's just a pleasure to kind of walk into the writer's room and look at something that's been through a couple of drafts and just say, oh, I can't believe how lucky I am that I get to say these words, and it's been, but it was really surprising. And I was not expecting all of this. This was crazy. I mean, I almost expect it for my crew. Because we have such an amazing crew. And I think lots of people say this about their shows, but I just, the work, I think, shows you the expertise and the exceptional work that our hair and makeup do, the writers do. And so I always want that for them. And I guess I'll be honest, I kind of expected that for them. But certainly the supporting actor in a comedy, that's out of the blue for me. I couldn't believe that at all. That was a complete and utter surprise. I was reading it and I went, best supporting actor, no, who's that for? And my wife was like, it's for you, dummy, it's for you. So yeah, that was a complete and utter wonderful shock.
And you mentioned that the makeup and hairstyling both were nominated this year, and that really is such a major aspect of the comedy. Sometimes that doesn't always get as much attention as it always deserves. What's the process of you guys working with hair and makeup to create some of those characters?
Well, the head of our makeup department is a guy named Scott Wheeler, who is actually an Oscar nominee, and he's amazing. And then Amanda Mofield does our hair. For what we do is we have meetings during our pre-production period where we talk about what we want certain characters to do. And they have always, the two of them and their staffs have always been right up to the challenge. So you go, I kind of want him to have no eyebrow here and then like a bushy eyebrow that goes all the way to the middle of his cheek. Can you do that? And the answer is always yes. It's always yes. And it's been amazing. But so we have that meeting. And very often they'll pull up pictures online. And Amanda has said to us on many occasions, she'll show us the same pictures for like 3 or 4 seasons and go, guys, can we find a place to put this guy? And then she'll turn the computer around and go, look at this guy. This is crazy. I have to make this hair. And then eventually we try to always find characters that have been written that we can plug those hairstyles into, or characters that have been written that we can put the prosthetic nose on, or Scott will say, how about I make his teeth for this? Or he'll make us like dental impressions and make teeth, just in case we wanted to slap them in for any character at any point in time. So a lot of the prep is done in the pre-production process. And then there have been things that we've done on the fly where we've literally been in the makeup chair, and I've seen like the hair go on and go, oh, what would be good with this? And then Scott's like, sounds great. And then they'll paint it in or put, so it's a collaborative thing, sometimes all the way up to walking on set. And then we, delightfully and sometimes scarily surprise the director when he goes, whoa, okay, that was not the look I was expecting, but and then we all roll with it and have fun with it.
With some of those looks that maybe they've wanted to include, find a place for, is that how we got the sketch this year about the 2 guys on the plane who are one by the Terrys?
the Terrys, yeah, the guys hunting Terrys. Step on some Terrys. Yeah, that's 100% where those look. For 3 seasons, she's been showing me a picture of this guy with this hat hair. Literally has hat hair, and she's like, when do we get to do this guy? It's the last season. When do we get to do it? I'm like, we're gonna find it. We'll find it. And the interesting thing about that sketch is those characters have existed since the first season, but every scenario we had put them in prior had been way too creepy. Like we can't make that sketch. It's just it's too much. And then finally, when the writer who wrote the original sketch that we didn't do, he also wrote, with the help of Jordan, this airplane sketch. And we were like, oh, those 2 guys, I think their names are Starper and Michael, I believe are their names. Starper and Michael, we could put them in the airplane Terry scene. And then, much to Amanda's joy. So she started clapping her hands, jumping up and down. And also my guy with the braid across the forehead and it's what's ridiculous. Forget how ridiculous we look. It's not that they're based on real guys. She literally stole the look. Those are two humans walking around on Earth with those looks. And we were like, we have to do it. We have to do it. And I think they're both incarcerated, so I think we're okay for a good 10 years before anybody tries to come and get us. So yeah, and you know, with me also and Amanda, very often what she's doing, it's easier with me than it is with Jordan because she's just dealing with a blank palette. So she literally just puts adhesive glue on my head and then slaps a bunch of hair on my head and then styles it with clippers as she goes. And we find the look together sometimes. With Jordan, sometimes there might be a look he wants and he can't shave his head because of another look we want to do. You know what I mean? So she has to find ways around that. And it's so creative, her problem solving and the way she does it in regard to the hair. It's really quite brilliant.
Of course, after all this awards recognition this year, you know, you recently announced that you will be ending the show after the season that's currently airing now. You know, but given the number of nominations that the show got this year, did you wonder if maybe you should have stayed for maybe like one more year?
You know, really, we're really going to stick to our guns artistically here, and I think it's because we felt there's been a lot of response saying, yeah, good for you guys, go out on top, which is kind of doing 4 to 5 seasons of anything really kind of appeals to that British model of we think that we're finished and so we're just going to be done. And so I think we are where we need to be. I feel like we've done what we wanted to do with the art form and have explored it as much as we feel we want to explore it right now. Now, who's to say there's not a special in the offing sometime in the near future or even the distant future. But at this particular moment in time, there's been so much other stuff coming up and surfacing in both me and Jordan's life that we really want to make an effort to explore those other things, which if and when we come back to sketch, will just inform the sketch again. It will inform this way of working and this way of doing things. So that, I mean, it is tempting, but I think that we just know in our souls now would not be the time to continue in its current form. And so, yeah, that we're pretty steadfast about it, you know.
Was that decision, you know, a long time in coming? Had you been thinking about it for a couple of years, maybe, or you know, did it just feel right at this particular moment now?
I think it's kind of, I wouldn't say a couple of years. I'd say maybe in the last year and a half, I was feeling I was also getting markedly tired every day, and it's tough. Sketch is tough. It's a different type of subgenre, and it can be grueling. Which is not to say that procedurals aren't grueling, which is not to say that half-hour comedy's not grueling. But when you've got your toe in every single aspect of the production, it consumed a good deal of our year. I mean, part of it for me is literally, it's physiological. It's not having the energy to put all the insight, all the effort that I want to put into the work that I do. So you want to go to bed at night and go, okay, I absolutely did the best I could. It's like a football player. I mean, I left it all on the field. I want to leave it all out on the field. And I'm starting to feel like in this particular case, with this particular type of work, I didn't know if I was going to be able to maintain that. And so I'd say about a year and a half. I wouldn't say like 2 years. I don't think that we did season 3 and said, we got 2 more of these and we're done. It was, and for me personally, I can't speak for Jordan, but for me also, because the humor that we do isn't topical, it's thematic, kind of human themes. My fear was also I didn't want us to start exploring the same themes over and over again in a different way. It would break my heart if in season 6 or season 7 our viewers started going, wait a minute, I've seen this scene before. Now they're just doing it in an old Western town. I've already seen this scene. You know, that would kill me. That if we wanted a place to find new ground to cover. And so that, in addition to these other projects that we want to pursue in our career right now, I think it just made it, the writing was on the wall for us and it made it at the right time.
One of the many Emmy nominations for the show this year is Best Variety Sketch Series, which is a new category this year. Because in previous years, you know, talk shows had been pretty dominant in the variety categories. Saturday Night Live was the only sketch show that usually got nominated, you know, recently, and you know, talk shows always won: Jon Stewart, Letterman, Colbert. What were your thoughts on having this new category for shows like yours and like Inside Amy Schumer and that kind of show?
I think it's terrific, and I'm glad that they did it, because you're right. They really are they're really apples and bowling balls. That's how different these two different types of shows are. And we may have been even operating. I have no proof of this, but we may have been operating from a disadvantage, because you could watch Colbert or The Daily Show. You're getting brilliance 5 times a week, and you can kind of pop in when you want and go, oh right, I forgot how amazing that guy was. Let's give him another Emmy, which they deserve. They absolutely deserve. But they get more of an opportunity to watch that show, and so it's kind of like, have that format duke it out, and have our format duke it out. And I think that I think this is a lot more fair, and the parity that's involved makes for more drama. I think, like, who's going to win? Like, I don't have a sense of who's going to win. And something I'm super excited about is that Drunk History got nominated, because Drunk History is kind of a narrative and sketch mixed together in a way with another element on top of it of the host. So that show, I just think Derek is brilliant, and what he's done from website to show, and how it's just so fantastic. It makes you laugh on different levels. There's a little bit of Schadenfreude, because you're laughing at a person's discomfort, but it's okay to laugh because they put themselves in that situation willingly. So you get all this delicious Schadenfreude, and then also watching actors that you know and enjoy try to make all of it make sense. It's really a great format, and I think it makes more sense now. Now that we have these categories separated, people can now, in the Academy, can say, well, what does sketch mean? And it can have more variety to it than anything. I hope more shows like Drunken History, that kind of bends this narrative sketch idea and coalesces it into a new animal. I hope more of that happens, and I hope they nominate more of those shows. I was really excited to see that one. I was like, bravo, Television Academy, you know.
This does seem to me like it's been an especially good time to be in comedy and TV. With people like Derek with Drunk History, and Louis C.K. and Amy Schumer and so many others getting to showcase their unique sensibilities in an open and creative way, and in so many different ways. Do you feel like this is an especially good time to be a comedian?
I do. I think it is. I think everybody's becoming a little more courageous in allowing people to show their point of view. And I think also what we're happening is we're living in a time where more different type of people are getting to show, culturally, racially, are getting to show their point of view, because there's oodles and oodles and oodles of stations and networks that are all now driven toward a niche. And so there's programming that from that niche that you would have never seen 25, 30 years ago. And we've evolved, I think, from saying, hey, what are the different types of multicam sitcoms? There's a workplace comedy, there's a family comedy, to something like that defies description. I can't really describe Louis C.K.'s show. I can't describe, I can describe, but then you have shows like us and Schumer and Kroll and Drunk History, all these shows on Comedy Central, that they're sketch, but all done differently. And we all have different sensibilities about what we think sketch is or should be, or how we approach it. And so I think it is. I'm not going to go so far as to say a golden age. I think we still have to have more stuff come up, and it has to continue. But I do think we're in a really fun, fascinating time for television in general. I've just never seen TV like this. And if I wasn't me, if I was me, who I am, my age, my demographic, I would. If you told me 15 years ago that there would be 2 biracial guys doing a sketch comedy show, I'd go, what? Now, who's going to let anybody do that? That's not going to happen. No one's ever going to represent my voice. And then somebody did it, and somebody allowed someone to do it. And I have to give lots of kudos to Comedy Central, because they have just been so wonderful about spreading nothing but support and wonderful vibes toward everybody in our little fiefdom of the network. I mean, in the sketch world, and allowing us all to express ourselves in different ways. So you end up with really different shows. And it's an exciting time for comedy, I think, even in general, because I think that shows like Louis C.K.'s show, I think that shows like that inform shows like the Goldbergs or Blackish, or you know what I mean? So, and then and then to have someone on Blackish refer to Key and Peele. It was an episode where, he was talking about all these black men have white wives, blah, Key, Peele, you know what I mean? So it's like, we're all kind of informing each other in a way. And it's really terrific.
Another of your nominations, as you mentioned earlier, was a supporting actor in a comedy series. And actors in that category have to submit episodes for consideration. And you submitted the episode Sex Detective. And that featured, Strike Force Eagle 3, which was a parody of low-budget action movies. And, of course, it had your, Luther, the Obama anger translator.
Right.
What about that episode stood out to you as a highlight?
It's interesting. I think for me, the thing that actually stood out the most is the name of the episode is Sex Detective. It's the Sex Detective sketch that I like because I'm just acting. You know what I mean? I mean, the thing sometimes I think people forget is it's not easy to simply be the straight man. I think you have to still be dealing with the circumstances of the sketch as realistically as possible, especially in that sketch, which is very ribald, very outrageous, and the challenge that I relished was being able to play as straight a character. I really want to pretend like I'm on CSI, and then still, when Jordan's behavior was so outrageous, what do I do that keeps the character grounded enough that I stay in genre, but then also maybe squeeze some laughs out of the straight man at the same time? And so that was one of the sketches I was most proud of in the episode. And then, of course, I always love to do Luther. I mean, kind of righteous indignation or just boisterous indignation is something that I do. The writers keep writing me these scripts, and they go, "I get the message, guys." But so those two things, those two kind of there were dichotomies there. And then I'm also it's funny. Forgive me, I'm forgetting what were the other sketches you just mentioned that were in the episode. It's funny because it's sketch. It all starts running together for me sometimes.
Yeah, it was a Strike Force Eagle 3 where you're
snapping necks.
Yeah, and the other one was the frozen yogurt woman. Her.
Yes, yeah, which was like my big prosthetics role for the season. Which, and then I think in that it's what I liked about that sketch. The challenge is, of course, trying really hard to let the circumstance get its laughs. And ride the wave of it's surfing, like ride the wave of the circumstance. Don't wink at it too much. And because it's a funny premise. So you want to kind of work the premise as opposed to saying, look, I already got a fat suit on and huge, big fat makeup. Don't push it, Keegan. Once again, it's like, try to be truthful in the moment as a performer. And, she really doesn't understand why she doesn't understand. She really doesn't understand why he doesn't recognize her. Like, it's got to be as real as you can make it. And I think that's also a movement in comedy recently. But yeah, there was enough. I kind of said, I got a prosthetic piece in here. I've got a crowd favorite in here. I've got this nice straight man piece in here. And then I've got this really silly thing at the top that's a blast. That and all of them kind of sitting and living in different genres, which was a lot of fun. Yeah. It was good transformation in the episode, I think, in regard to the look of the characters as well.
Luther has been one of the big breakout characters from the show, and you actually got to play Luther with the real Obama at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. How did that opportunity come about?
Well, we met, Jordan and I met Obama in 2012. He was at a fundraiser at George Clooney's house in Los Angeles, and he happened to have some time on his hands the next morning. And somebody in the press just asked him if he wanted to meet Key and Peele, and he said that he'd love to meet Key and Peele. So we were flabbergasted because we had heard him about, a month earlier, we had heard him mention us on Jimmy Fallon. And we were going, what just happened? And so then when he came to LA, we thought, I remember Jordan said to me on the phone, I was shooting a movie in New Orleans and he was in California, and he said, dude, we're going to meet him. I got a feeling we're going to meet him. And I said, well, we'll see. And then the phone call came. We went to the Beverly Hilton and met him. And this was May of 2012. And then he said, he said, I need Luther. I need him. He said it like in the second term. And so we're like, oh, of course, sir. And then I went to the White House holiday party last year in December. and met one of his speechwriters. And he said, look, I know I sent you an email. If you're ever interested in doing something with the president for the White House Correspondents Center, we'd love to have you. We were supposed to do the Correspondents Center in 2013, and we couldn't. It was in the middle of our season. We were shooting. And so we couldn't make it work. And I said, yeah, I'd love to. And it's funny because it all happened in like 2 weeks. The whole thing happened in 2 weeks. He emailed me. I forwarded it to my manager. And then all of a sudden, like, we started making plans. And I'm like, we're doing this, right? And he's like, yeah, book your flight. And I'm like, okay. So I looked at my wife and said, we're going to book the flight. Everything just started rolling down the hill. And I'm like, okay. And then they sent me a draft. The White House wrote the draft of the scene. And I was like, this is good. Here's some notes. Here's some notes. Oh my God. And then you're in the plane flying to Washington, D.C. like, this is happening. We're going to do this. And then it's still not real. And then I go to the West Wing and I'm rehearsing with him in the map room of the West Wing. And he's laughing at the bits. And we did the first run through of the sketch. And he said his first line. And then I said my first line. And he broke. He cracked up. And he was like, I got to get it together. It was amazing. It was really amazing. I think it might go down. It might go down as my second favorite day in history in my life after marrying my wife. I really think it's true. It was such a fantastic experience, and he was amazing. So.
And that's one of those rare experiences. I don't know if you could ever imagine that happening. Like to be in a room, you're rehearsing a comedy bit with the President of the United States of America.
Right. The experience was fun because I wanted to stay in it. But what is surreal is Jordan and I sat down. I wanted Jordan to be in the piece, and Jordan said, "No. You doing it with him is the best possible scenario." Because I can't think of another time in history where a fictional character becomes real and does the thing that it was created to do. Does that make any sense? I don't even know how to. It's hard. It defies explanation because when does that happen? You know what I mean? I can't even think of what you would compare it to. So I'm very blessed and honored to be in a situation where you get to fully realize a character. The only way to do anything beyond that, there is no pinnacle beyond this pinnacle, unless when he gets out of office, I go on tour with him and do it during his speech. He's got to cut me in on that lecture circuit money. But otherwise, where do you? I mean, it's hit its ceiling. It's hit its ceiling. So it really is. It just brings joy to my heart just talking to you about it right now. So,
yet another Emmy nomination for you this year was the Super Bowl special, and I remember when it aired, it was so fascinating. Like it's sports sketches, and then it becomes like this dystopia with ruled by Allison Janney, and it goes there so gradually. It feels almost like the Too Many Cooks of sports parodies. How did you guys develop that idea? To take that turn.
I think, the big thing is that Jordan's very good. Like, he'll never deny who he is as a person, which is great. And he is, as all of us are, he's a geek. He's a sci-fi geek, and our writers are sci-fi geeks. And as we were sitting in the room, it was us and two of our writers, our friends Brendan Hunt and Rich Tellerico. And the four of us were kind of working on it together. And then it's because we're all improvisers, you never know what direction or what path your conversation is going to take. And because the primary rule, the primacy, if you will, of what we do is you have to support the previous idea. You're not allowed to say no. And you must support it. And you must support that one, which adds onto this one, which adds onto this one, which adds onto this one. And we ended up with this dystopian future where, you know what I mean? And so it was not something, it was something that was created completely organically. Couldn't have been more organic. And I was really, but it's that sensibility that we have anyway in the room. Big fans of Legend and Labyrinth and Aliens and all this. I mean, these are the kind of movies that we grew up on, that we enjoyed in our youth. And so if there was a way to, and I think the original idea that kind of triggered the brainstorming was Jordan when he started watching football, it's seeing that robot, on the side of the Fox, screen when they're doing like Fox NFL Sunday, and there's that dancing robot who spikes the football and does all the dancing, and he's like, what if that robot became sentient? And then we were like, oh yeah, and then the robot would do this, and then the robot would do what any cyborg would do in any Terminator movie, which is go, these creatures don't need to exist. And except for that, it didn't know what else to do other than the fact that Allison Janney was on every single television show in the world last year. But all these things were ideas that kind of popped up in the moment, and then we refined them into the special that you saw.
In addition to the Emmy success that the show has had over the last couple of years, it also won the Peabody Award a couple of years ago, and those awards cover such a wide range of work in multimedia. What was it like to get that recognition? How was that different?
Gosh, how is it different? First of all, is it's a much. The one thing that was interesting about the Peabodys is, which that blew me away the most. The biggest difference is this: the majority wins in the Emmys. So people are going to vote for different shows, and the person who gets the most, they tally the votes, and the person who gets the most vote wins. Very democratic. In the Peabody, like there's like a body of 16 people, and they watch all of the entries, right? So I think our year they got something. It might have been in the 800s, or I'm not remembering. It was either in the 800s or like 1,100 entries. And they picked 43 shows to honor. But the way they do the rules at the honor, if all 16 people don't unanimously pick the piece, it doesn't get a Peabody. So if it's 15-1, no Peabody. And when we heard that, you could hear everybody in that room that day. Everybody in the Waldorf was like, "Oh, everybody," whispering. It's a very distinctive award. But the thing that is maybe most important to me is that they thought that what we do in the comedy field was somehow important to the larger society, and that means quite a lot to me. That our satire and is in some way being helpful to our culture at large. And so you don't expect that. You kind of just do what you want to do. And then it was a lovely, lovely, lovely surprise to be given that honor. But that's the thing, is that it's very exclusive. I didn't know that. And then when they told us that, we were like, what? You're like, but it was, it was amazing. It was really, that thing still, I'm very, very humbled by that. That's the one I can't get my head around, even more than being with the president and performing, if that makes any sense. It probably doesn't, but if that makes any sense. Yeah.
Well, congratulations on all of that, on the Correspondents' Dinner and the Emmy nominations for the show, and going out on top. Truly, the show still has some episodes left, so we can mourn gradually.
Yes, we can mourn gradually. And hey, who knows? Maybe we'll get some more nominations next year. Who knows? But it's, yes, that's the thing. We thought it was important. Like, let's let them know now. Like, we're kind of mid-season, so we want to make sure we give people. I think we're kind of at 5 or 6 weeks left. Just want to make sure people. Yeah, you said it. You said it very eloquently. So.
Well, I want to wish you the best of luck at the Emmys coming up, and thank you so much for talking to me today.
It was absolutely my pleasure. Thank you, man.